Greetings. A miracle is a supernatural event that science cannot explain, and God's intervention cannot be explained. Our God is a supernatural God. May the Lord bless you. We are building faith. This is Thomas William Gardner, and this is a segment that I would like to tell you that God is still in the miracle business. These are some stories of what happened to my grandfather that I wanted to share with you. And I go to churches and I talk to a lot of different people, and some people don't believe that God is still doing miracles, but he is. I don't know who's giving him credit for it. Sometimes I think we should speak up and tell the things that God has done so that we can build each other's faith. When my grandfather was about 7 years old, he was taken to a woods by some boys. He was left for dead. He was left in the middle of a large woods in Pennsylvania. And somehow, in the morning, he found his way out. So he was in that woods all night at about 7 years old. Many people prayed. Now, when he was about the same age, he was taken out to a stone quarry, taken out to the middle of the quarry, and the quarry was very deep and very clear. And the kids threw him in, and they said, "Sink or swim. This is how you swim." And they laughed, and they went to shore, and he swam. He didn't know how to swim. He just pretended to know how to swim, and somehow he lived through it. Now, I say these things because there was some type of intervention going on in his life. Where the book was written, he wasn't supposed to leave yet. In Grandpa's 20s, he went to help out an elderly lady, and she had a gas furnace, and he went down in the furnace, and he lit it, and it blew up, and he was sent clear across the room. But he lived through it. He had some burns. They took him to the hospital, and people prayed, and he was okay. When my grandfather was 38 years old, he was working for the Nickel Plate Railroad, and the area of the building was supposed to be grounded, and it wasn't. And he was electrocuted. Well, I always say he was electrocuted. I guess if you die, you're electrocuted. But he was hit with so much electricity that his hair turned white overnight, and it was cold black. He had to be on a special diet the rest of his life, and he lived through it. Doctors said he wouldn't. Told my grandmother to get her affairs in order, but she would have none of it. She said, no, he's going to live, and she prayed. Now, back when my grandfather was in his 20s, late 20s, he was working for a company that was putting up power poles all over the country, and they were setting some kind of a record for how many they could put up. On this one day, something went wrong when they put up one of these tall power poles, and he fell off. He landed on his back. The men gathered around him. They prayed, and they were scared, and Grandpa got up, and he worked. It took him a while, but he worked. And we don't really know how high up he was when he fell off that pole, but he lived through it. Now, this one I wanted to share especially because this is the one that affected our families. And this is one where whether you're a Christian or religious or believe in God or don't believe in God, you really have to stop and look at it. You look at the whole thing. This is his life. These are the things he went through. Oh my gosh, God is still in the miracle business. It must be God because it's an intervention. And for some reason, he was spared on these times. He wasn't supposed to go too early. Now, in this, I want to share this story. My grandfather and my father were working in 4th Street inside the garage, and this was like a 4-car garage type thing, two great big doors. And in the garage, you could do a lot of things. You could paint cars or whatever. And my father was working underneath a car. My grandfather was up on top of a ladder, and he was putting fluorescent bulbs in. Now, he was away from the car. Now, we have to remember that my grandmother, and my grandfather only had one child. The second child that they had would have been my my father's sister. They gave her a name and everything. They buried her. She was only alive for a few days. It was a very sad thing. Like I've said before, my grandmother Gardner and grandfather Gardner had many ups and downs. Their marriage wasn't perfect, but they had each other. They looked out for each other. They loved each other. Now, in this event, the jack gave way when Dad was underneath the car. And when the jack gave way, my grandfather was up on like the third or fourth step of the stepladder, putting in the fluorescent bulb. He jumped off of the stepladder and he caught the front of the car and he held onto the car until my father got out from underneath the car. This is his only son. And so he held onto the car, and then when my father was out from underneath it, he let the car down, and then it hit him. That's impossible. That can't happen. A man that old can't jump off of the top of a stepladder, land on his feet, and catch the car before the jack gave way. When the jack was giving way, that's why he knew he had to jump off of the stepladder. But it happened. It was an intervention. It was an act of God. And we all knew it. And everybody kept saying, well, must have been an angel there with you. There must have been an angel. Now, whether there was an angel there or not, or it was just a God intervention, a miracle, something that man cannot explain, something that science cannot explain, I couldn't tell you. But what I can tell you is it changed our lives. We believed in God and everything, and we loved God, and we said nice things about God. But now, Grandpa had a talk with my sister. My older sister lost it, and she explained to him, how much she cared about him and everything. And he decided that everybody's going to go to church. So he started taking us to church all the time. And he became great friends with Brother Ofield. And they did things together and laughed, and my grandfather was a lot of fun. And it was a good finish for my grandfather's life from there on out, the relationship that he had with the church and the relationship that he had with the pastor. It was a beautiful thing. But it always came back to the same thing. Well, God spared my boy. God spared my only son. God spared my boy. And we just kind of couldn't get past it. And it was one of those events in your life that it just changes you. You look at things and you go, okay, but that's not possible. Okay, it happened to me, but that's not possible. And it made you start to go back and look at the other things. Okay, a 7-year-old left in the thick woods in Pennsylvania, not very possible. He'd come find his way back home in the morning light and survive in a woods that had bears and moose and everything else at the time. Pretty dangerous. Or a boy that didn't know how to swim is tossed in a lake and all of a sudden he starts swimming. Pretty incredible. You see, our names are written in the book of life. And everything that we do good is written down also. God keeps these books. And yes, it's true that we do have an appointment. But I do believe with the intervention of prayer, with a miracle, that even then, sometimes we can get extended time on this earth. Or that there's something that we haven't finished and we're on the right path and God's going to help us. God's going to spare us. But the point was here, to give God credit. If God does a miracle for you, shouldn't you stop and share that miracle with others? Shouldn't you tell other people what the miracle was? If God reveals something that's truly supernatural, shouldn't you share it? And then you share it, and somebody else shares with you, and it goes on, and you build faith. Faith is the substance of things hoped for. It is the evidence of things not seen. Faith. Faith. Well, I hope this helped your faith, and I've got more miracle stories, and it felt really good for me to get these miracle stories told in a public way. One thing about me, when I go places and people ask me, I tell them the stories, but this is a whole avenue that I've never explored like this before. So I'm pretty excited about it. And I wanted to share these miracles with you, and I have more miracles to talk about. I hope I'll see you then, because these are just some of my thoughts.